Hello, Rob McNeilly here. I've had some spare time recently, and I noticed that when I have some spare time, I first of all start to feel a little on edge because I should be doing something. But then, if I remember that doing nothing, and in fact even being bored, can provide some space for an opportunity for things that have been there on the periphery to have an opportunity to have some space to come to the fore and to be available for reflection. And the focus of what is starting to kind of come together with like a number of threads for me stemmed from some time ago with a growing irritation about the emphasis in our work, in our therapy work, of techniques. And the word techniques to me, technical, it seems to imply some kind of mechanical process, as if what we're working with here is a machine uh, that we need some technical expertise to fix, and people even talk about having a toolbox. And I've always found that rather disrespectful and demeaning to think of human beings. I think we are more than mechanisms and mechanistic processes. There's something profoundly mysterious about the human condition. And I think Erickson also emphasised this the importance of this when he um, refused to have a rigid theory. In fact, said to think that there could be one theory that would adequately explain all situations was ridiculous. And instead of trying to create a theory through an abstraction of experience, he invited us to be in the experience by observing what was happening and then starting to learn ways of interacting with what was there, to accept whatever the client was bringing and then to make use of that. And I think that idea that Erickson embodied has not been adequately emphasised. A beautiful book that one of his daughters, Betty Alice Erickson, wrote with Brad Keeney about Erickson, American healer, brought this word healer into the forefront in a unusual way. Usually there are talks about some kind of techniques and theories about the way he spoke and what he did and the strategies and so on. And healing is a different process. In a lot of our work has been sidetracked by the medical model, where in medicine, someone has some physical problem, we make a diagnosis, then we find a way of treating, so that then medical practice is a process of treating. Healing's not in it. In fact, Sir William Osler quipped so beautifully. He said that God heals the patient and the doctor takes the bill. So the therapy has, in my view, been seduced to the idea of treating and missed the core of the human condition, missed the humanity, missed the mystery that is at the core of what we're about. And I was reading a paper that Barry Duncan had written about becoming a better therapist, and he wrote in that paper about the value of what he called the healing environment. And when I read healing environment, somehow the word healing, clicked for me and kind of connected with some interest of mine that I want to speak about. And I looked up the etymology of the word therapy, and it turns out that it comes from the Greek word meaning Greek word of therapia, which means healing. So therapy was originally healing. Steve DeShazer wrote that book, words used to be magic. And Scott Miller and Mark Hubble have written a lovely paper about psychotherapy having lost its magic, and an invitation for us to uh, not dismiss what he calls these magic, or actually they're shamanistic processes that have been around for a long time and are still persistent in many cultures. Instead of dismissing them, to actually open ourselves to the benefit of that, to the legitimacy of that. And Scott spoke about starting a clinical trial to explore the efficacy of clairvoyance. And anyone who knows about his work and the dodo bird effect can expect that that they're going to do as well as any other therapy field. Anyhow, we shall see about that. But our friend George Burns in Perth has written a book, excuse me, called Nature Guided Therapy, in which George makes the claim that we have problems when we become disconnected from nature. And so, as a result of that, he invites people to go into nature and to sense, with all of their senses, the experience of being in nature, to connect with nature and have the possibility of healing that way. I've noticed that it's not always just nature that we become disconnected from. If we become disconnected from our body, from our future, from our family, from ourselves, that's the disconnection that causes the suffering and the limitations that show up as problems. So this notion of connecting, and the question then is connecting with what? And we can find out, and get some insight into where the disconnection is when we ask each individual person, what's missing for them. And if we find out what's missing for them, then we'll usually, if we look there, see a disconnection that we can then help to facilitate a reconnection of that experience, that opportunity, that way of being that they become disconnected from, and then they can heal. So I think it's very. I'm fascinated to start to explore and see if other people are interested also, to shift the emphasis from treatment of conditions to the process of healing. And I think there's something very different about the experience of healing compared with treatment. Treatment is very abstract, very power down, working on, whereas healing is working with, healing is cooperative. In fact, my friend Tove Kuhn, who's a Danish midwife living in Greenland, said that she's doing some beautiful work there, that when she's working with people, helping people, there are 3 words that are there present for her all the time. They are respect, confidence, and cooperation. Now, when we respect our client, when we are confident in the client, when we encourage cooperation with the client, it works both ways, and there is that connection. So I think that notion of connection is going to be so worthwhile focusing on, to see how we can connect with our client, how we can get the clients to connect with what's missing for them. And there's another element here. Maturana says that any experience where there is an expansion in our awareness is what he calls a spiritual experience. So in that way, this connection and this opening ourselves to a wider range of observing, of connecting, of interacting has the opportunity of being spiritual, not technical. And I happen to like that. I think uh, it's more satisfying for us, more holistic, more complete, and also more respectful. So there's some thoughts that I've had that I wanted to put out there because I've noticed that sometimes if I put my thoughts out there, they become clearer to me, and other people say, "Oh yes, that's absolutely right," or "That's absolute rubbish," and it all helps to kind of clarify. So please have some thoughts about this, and if you would leave some comments, I would really appreciate that. So thanks for listening.